Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Esam Al-Shareffi. I am one of the Democrat candidates for delegate for District 17, which covers Gaithersburg and Rockville. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a controversial issue, namely my opposition to speed cameras, why I think they are not such a great idea for our residents. The major reasons are I believe they are poor value for money, as I will show in the next slide. I believe they are largely ineffective in meeting our safety goals, and there are better alternatives out there that will make us more safe. The reason that I think that it's poor value for money is presented here. As a scientist, I like to get as much data as possible, and I looked through, and unfortunately there was no data that I could find for Gaithersburg. There was some for the Rockville speed camera program, and this is from the Rockville City Police Safe Speed Program Evaluation Report for fiscal years 2013 and 2014. And what I'd like to draw your attention to is the financials for 2014. In that year, speed cameras issued a large number of citations that generated $1.48 million for the city. However, unfortunately, the biggest portion of that revenue went to the speed camera vendor. So over $631,000 of this revenue went directly to the speed camera vendor, and I don't think it makes sense for us to issue tickets to our citizens where the biggest beneficiary is going to be a private vendor. The other huge costs went into personnel and operating costs for the program, nearly as much money as went to the vendor, and that left the city of Rockville with only about 15.5% of the revenue from the speed tickets, which is only about $231,000 for fiscal year 2014. So if you can imagine, we have these cameras that are issuing tickets worth about $1.5 million to our citizens and people who drive through our neighborhoods, and it doesn't make sense to me that only a very small proportion of that money actually goes to our coffers, which can then be used to promote road safety programs and to fund programs that will make us safer. Doesn't make sense that this program largely is benefiting the private vendor, and so much of the program is going to administrative costs. And so that's why I think these are poor value for their money, and their biggest beneficiary is the private vendor, not our fellow citizens. Now, why do I believe that speed cameras are ineffective? From the same report that I just cited, there is this summary excerpt here that I'd like to read to you. It says that although recent data from our fixed pole camera locations shows that the average moving speeds of vehicle passes have increased slightly, the significant reduction in the number of citations issued throughout the years suggests that motorists are being mindful of the speed limit on our roadways. And I'd like to respectfully disagree with this conclusion. I think the reason that the police who were tracking this question saw that cars were traveling a little bit faster is that motorists know that unless they are traveling 12 miles per hour or more above the posted speed limit, that the speed camera isn't going to do anything to them. So on roads that are 30 miles per hour, if you're traveling 40 miles per hour, speed camera isn't going to do anything at all. And the reason that the number of citations is going down throughout the years doesn't really reflect that people are driving slower or being more mindful of the of speed limits, but people have just memorized where the speed cameras are located, and even when the locations change, it just takes a few days of driving to figure out where those cameras are. And then what motorists will do is they'll just slow down when they're close to the speed camera. Once they've been able to clear it, they will then return to their usual speed. So all this program is doing is just catching people who weren't paying as much attention as they should have off guard, but it's not really making our motorists drive any slower. And actually, paradoxically, they know that they can drive up to 10 miles per hour or even 11 miles per hour above the posted speed limit, and they won't get any citations from the speed camera. So now, beyond this, another significant limitation in speed cameras is they can't stop distracted or drunk drivers. if these drivers happen to be driving faster than the posted speed limit, faster than 12 miles per hour above the speed limit, then they might get a ticket in the mail in a couple of weeks for $40 and without any points or anything or any other sanctions like that. But when we have a drunk driver, we need them to be pulled over as quickly as possible for their safety and for that of other people who are driving and bystanders. And speed cameras are simply not equipped to be able to deal with drunk drivers and most distracted drivers, whereas traditional law enforcement, having a speed cruiser there, they're going to be able to stop this drunk driver, they're going to be able to stop the distracted driver and take the appropriate enforcement action to keep us safe. Speed cameras, not going to do the job. And so what are the better alternatives that we have? Well, the Montgomery County has posted a very good basically roadmap to something called Vision Zero, which is basically trying to implement a rational plan for systematic safety that aims to reduce traffic fatalities and serious injuries down to zero, and the goal is to do that by 2030. And the biggest things that they have posted that are obstacles to reaching zero fatalities on the road are, number one, aggressive and impaired driving, which speed cameras, as we just explained, are not going to be good at stopping. And there are other priorities here that I think are very important, particularly trying to make sure that we have the right infrastructure to protect pedestrians and bicyclists as they are on the road, to invest in a roadway infrastructure that will use engineering techniques to actually reduce the flow of traffic in certain areas that are very populated, that have pedestrians and bicyclists, to make it so much less likely that an accident can happen. And so these are the types of methods that we can use to improve traffic safety using vehicle technology, using protections to pedestrians and bicyclists, using infrastructure, and also good enforcement that stops aggressive and impaired drivers. And speed cameras can do none of those things. And like I said, the biggest beneficiary from them are the private vendor, and that's primarily the reason that they continue to be used not only in our district but throughout Maryland, but not in most states throughout the country. So I hope that this has given you some indication of the reasons why I oppose speed cameras. If you agree or disagree, please feel free to either leave a comment or contact me through the website. I'd be more than happy to hear your feedback on this important issue. And thank you so much for your time. This is Dr. Al signing off.